Hey guys, Hoang here, and today we're going to talk about Blue, Green, Yellow Megazoo in the BT4 English format, aka Sierra Mist, according to my stream chat. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. To kick things off, we're going to talk about a card that is very familiar to those that have played the English format up to this point, Magnadramon. Magnadramon is on play if you have 3 or fewer security cards, you may heal 2, and when it attacks, you may play 1 yellow level 3 Digimon from your hand without paying its cost. This is an 11 cost to hard slam and has 10k DP. This card is the largest instance of healing that you can perform in Megazoo in one single go. It also has really strong synergy with cards such as Lucemon and Salamon that we'll talk about in a bit. Magnadramon does, however, only work when you're at 3 security, so if your opponent keeps you at 4, please do be aware of that as you won't be able to heal. Coming up next, we have what is arguably the hardest slam in Megazoo, Puppetmon. Puppetmon is, if you do not know, on play, suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, and then during their next unsuspend phase, none of their Digimon can unsuspend, and when he attacks, you gain 1 memory. Puppetmon is extremely powerful. Arguably, it's one of my favorite cards in this entire game because he prevents your opponent from restanding, and that means they can't attack for game or lethal, especially when combined with cards like Magnadramon or Holy Wave, where you can just increase the amount of security you have. It can be extremely frustrating to play against. Puppetmon, however, is only 10k, just like Magnadramon, so your security is fairly weak. However, the really cool thing that I like about this deck, for both Magnadramon and Puppetmon specifically, since they are both yellow and green, is a card that's coming up very soon. And that card is Chaosmon Valderarm. Valderarm states, when you Digivolve into this card, you may activate the following effect twice. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 7000 DP, and then he has on deletion, gain 3 memory. This is the strongest top end that Megazoo can throw out, and it can come off of your 2 strongest hard slams, which is really crazy. Chaosmon not only gives you immediate board clearing, which was severely needed in Megazoo previously, as contesting board against decks like Omnimon was a pain, but also it comes from both your green and yellow, so if you wanted to play your Seraphis or Lotus, it can also come off of those. Chaosmon is a 14k body, which means he is most likely not going to lose to security check, and if he's ever deleted, you do receive 3 memory. So if your opponent expends resources to clear the Chaosmon off, because one of the best ways to deal with Megazoo is to clear their board, well then you gain the additional 3 memory. So if they Gaia Force your Chaos, well then you've just forced your opponent to hand over 11 memory, which then just passes the turn, and then you can slam something back down, and then you can just rinse and repeat the process. Chaosmon is a huge buff for Megazoo. Now, the card that ties everything together, Kaiser Nail. Kaiser Nail is a 4-cost blue option that states, choose a Digimon Digivolution card, place underneath one of your Digimon, and play it as another Digimon without paying its cost, and then from security, it would activate the main effect. This is your combo enabler. This card is actually so insane in Megazoo, I can't even stress how cool it is. Kaiser Nail pulls from any stack. It does not need to be a specific color of a stack. This means if you have a Puppetmon or a Magnadramon underneath your Chaosmon, you can Kaiser Nail that card out and then reuse their on-play effect. So if you Kaiser Nail a Puppetmon, oh cool, I just stunned the board again. Oh, you Kaiser Nailed Magnadramon, cool, heal 2. It's really cool just how much this enables. You can also just hard slam cards like Lotusmon, or you can try this out in decks like Volcanic Dramon with Omnimon. So it's a lot of cool sealing that you can enable. Not only that, but this does activate from security. And most of the on plays, they are just on play. It doesn't specifically state during your turn. So if you pull a Kaiser Nail from security and you pull a Puppetmon from underneath the Chaosmon, you can now stun your opponent's board. If you pull Magnadramon out from underneath Chaosmon, you just healed on your opponent's turn. This card is so cool. So finally, we get to the deck list, which I know is everyone's favorite part, so, bear with me. First off, I want to make sure that everyone understands Megazoo is not an orthodox deck. It is very much so an unorthodox deck that seeks to hard slam level 6s and doesn't digivolve like normal. Not only that, but with the addition of Chaosmon, Megazoo can now contest board and push a lot harder, so this deck is even more frustrating to play against as the opposition. And if that wasn't annoying enough, your security is stacked to the brim with removal and healing, so good luck getting through that. But to kick us off, we do play 4 Demi Vmon because we do play the 4 Vmon. Now the reason we play a blue bottom end is so that we have a really easy time accessing our Kaiser Nail and Ice Wolf Claws. Because Digimon states if you have a card with the same color, you can cast that option. This does include the raising area as well. So as long as we flip up that Demi Vmon egg, we can activate our Kaiser Nail. So it's online 24/7. And then Vmon is just super powerful because jamming is just a really powerful mechanic. So we can swing, get that chip off, and then our opponent has to kill it, which means they have to expend an attack, which then means, oh, cool, they've been suspended for Puppetmon. That's really, really good. Going next, we have 3 Lucemon. Lucemon was a huge buff to Mega Zoo because it is a hard slam that heals on play. It's basically a tiny little Magnadramon that isn't Salamon because you don't have to wait that one turn. It also increases your security because it is 10,000 DP. And if we have Magnadramon out, we are able to call the Lucemon from our hand whenever we attack. Coming up next, 4 Magnadramon. Magnadramon is a card from 1.0 that shows up time and time again because it is similar to Lucemon. When you hard slam it, you just heal 1. Being able to immediately heal is so powerful, especially when you have cards like Seraphimon and Magnadramon that you can potentially Digivolve into. With Seraphimon, you get that security pressure as well as healing 1, and if you Digivolve into Magnadramon, then maybe you can go into that Chaosmon or you can call it a Lucemon and keep further extending your plays. Magnadramon is a fantastic card. We do see that we played 2 Chaosmon. Chaosmon was a really interesting card that we did see in the 1.5 format. However, it was mostly used as a Rookie Rush counter. Going forward into the BT4 format, however, not only is it a Rookie Rush counter, but you can also use it to counter Mega Zoo matchups because now you can turn their Puppetmons or Lotus and their Magnadramons into -1 security so they can't harm you. That's really, really big, and you can use this card to swing the mirror matchup into your favor. Of course, you don't have to play Chaosmon if you want to play other cards. There's a lot of different things you can play. For example, you could play Mistymon, who is on play destroy, or rather reduce 2 Digimon's DP by 3,000. So that's another option you can play, and that in tangent with cards like Chaosmon could potentially be devastating. We do play the 4 Puppetmon. As we said before, Puppetmon is arguably the strongest hard slam that you do have in this deck, and if you can chain them together, it's extremely potent. Like, your opponent really just can't play the game. Puppetmon is your bread and butter. You want to constantly see these as much as you can, and you want to time them really well. Ideally, you stun more than 1 target, because if you waste your 1 stun on a single target, then you've just passed over 10 memory, and you're not getting a lot, or rather 11 memory, right? So do keep that in mind. Next up, we play 4 Lotusmon. Lotusmon is a new card from the BT4 set. Lotusmon states, while this card is in play, whenever a player would slam a level 3, it is immediately rested. What Lotusmon brings to the table is not only is it a 12k body, so it's really powerful with security, right, because that's what our deck's all about, but also you cannot get that wide board as easily versus Mega Zoo anymore. One of the best ways to deal with Mega Zoo previously was to take out all of their security in one go, because that way you wouldn't let them proc their Magnadramons or their Anjawumons if they did run that for whatever reason, but mostly your Magnadramons, right? And what that means is they would just normally put a bunch of level 3s onto the board and they'd just try to go wide, right? They'd play a pseudo Rookie Rush kind of style. What Lotusmon then does is you can't do that anymore because it just rests it, and then Lotusmon can swing into it. And if the game goes on for a grind, then you just force them into this stalemate and they just run out of resources. So Lotusmon is a very, very excellent addition to the Mega Zoo lineup. And of course, it can go into the Chaosmon, which is very much so greatly appreciated because now we have 8 green targets that we can go into. We play 3 Seraphimon. Seraphimon, like we've mentioned, has a lot of security pressure it brings to the table because when you have 3 or more security, he gains that +1 security attack. And when you Digivolve into him, you do heal 1. So we Digivolve off of the Magnadramon, who already healed us 1, or we Digivolve off the Chaosmon, who has then delayed the board prior to this, we get a lot of pressure going. Seraphimon is, however, only 10k, so do be aware of that. You want to use your Magnadramon to try and pump him up as much as possible, because Magnadramon states, ESS, for every 3 security, this Digimon gets +1k, so hopefully you can pump Seraphimon to at least 12k, so we can dodge those 11k and belows, but if that you can't, that's okay, because we can just Digivolve into that Chaosmon. For Magnadramon, as we mentioned before, Magnadramon is amazing as a hard slam. If your opponent tries to push for game, you can just heal out of it. Your opponent has to constantly play around Magnadramon. And if you don't get value out of that heal, you can just Digivolve into it and then call out a Lucemon. So this card is very, very powerful. Just the threat of it makes your opponent really hesitate with their kind of plays, because if they misplay or anything like that, then they're potentially going to just get blown out of the water. We play 4 Chaosmon. We do want to see the Chaosmon as much as possible because all our top end can go into the Chaosmon, so it's never actually a dead card, unlike decks such as Yellow War Greymon. So it also improves our security very significantly because it is 14k. If you haven't gotten the idea yet, our security is very, very important. 3 Kaiser Nail. Kaiser Nail, as we've explained before, is insane as a combo enabler. If you call Puppet, Lotus, or Magnadramon off of it, you get so much value, specifically Puppet and Magnadramon, right? But Lotusmon's nice to call out too, because it is sort of a way to just body Rookie Rush and such like that. We only play 3 and not 4, because you're not always going to have your Chaosmon out, and if you don't have it out, then this card is a dud. Also, you can Kaiser Nail your Magna Angemons and your Shakomons. That is another reason to play those cards. So if you're on Serafi, you can Kaiser Nail the Magna Angemon, and then you get that heal 1. It's very similar to Blue Yellow and 1.0. I know that was very popular. Going further into our options, we have 4 Ice Wolf Claw. Security needs to be stacked. This is unlike Gaia Force, which we don't have access to, we do play the blue equivalent of removal, Ice Wolf Claw, which allows us to bounce their card back to their hand. It can be very, very annoying. Do keep in mind, if you play the Mega Zoo Mirror matchup, you are letting them recycle their unplaced. Keep that in mind. 4 Holy Wave. Holy Wave is so obnoxious because it is main phase, or main effect, heal 1. Security effect, heal 1. This card, in Mega Zoo specifically, is just obnoxious to deal with. If you really just can't dodge it because it costs 6, so it's not too expensive in terms of Mega Zoo, right? In a regular deck, you definitely cannot play this. But for Mega Zoo, it is amazing because it's non-conditional healing, right? So unlike Magnadramon, who you can play around, you can't play around Holy Wave, and it's fantastic in security. 2 Tactical Retreat. Tactical Retreat is a really interesting card. It's very similar to Holy Wave, where the security effect is heal 1, but its main effect is you take one of your Digimon and you put it on top of your security. So it's kind of like a pseudo heal, but not exactly because you do give up a body. But for example, we could go into the Magnadramon, call out a Lucemon, heal 1, and then Tactical Retreat Lucemon to the top of the security. So that's actually really cool. This card is not as potent as Holy Wave, so do keep that in mind, however. Now we have 3 TKs, the memory TK specifically. Being at 3 memory is really, really good because then we're allowed to hard slam a lot of our cards without, giving over a full 10 memory, as well as playing some of our cards such as Kaiser Nail and then locking them to 1 if need be. Being at 3 is great. It also turns our Magna Angemon hard slams into only 4 costs rather than what would be potentially 6 cost. And we can Digivolve into Seraphimon without passing the turn, which is, always greatly appreciated. And then we play the 2 Security TK. Security TK is great in this deck because it pumps up our security numbers, so Puppetmon then becomes a 12k security check, Lotusmon becomes 14k, Chaosmon to 16, I mean, you get the idea. So versus decks that really like to swing at your security or get that chip off, this card is fantastic. So yeah. Now to talk about the various techs that you can do in Mega Zoo, Mega Zoo is a very versatile deck archetype. There are a lot of different 6s that you could play to hard slam. There are a lot of different 5s that you could hard slam as well and implement. But ideally, you want to do cards that have immediate impact or manipulate your security in a very positive way. Cards such as this TK, you could run at a higher quantity if you wanted to have a better matchup versus Yellow War Greymon decks, because at most they can only hit 12k off their War Greymon. So then if they see a Puppetmon or they see your Magnadramons, it would suddenly then killed it. You can also run cards like Chaosmon without the Folder arm to the Darkdramon arm, which then gives you more level 6s to go, more level 7s to go into off of your 6s, which is always very, very good. But do keep in mind, you can only go off of your green level 6s with the Chaosmon Darkdramon arm, so that is something to be aware of. There are other variants of Mega Zoo, such as Red-Yellow with Don Devi Mega Zoo. There is Security Control. Mega Zoo in general is a really interesting archetype as it has a lot of different ways you could branch into it. So when you're designing Mega Zoo, you're designing your Mega Zoo deck, keep that in mind because Mega Zoo isn't just one linear thing. It's a very flexible and versatile deck archetype. Going into the matchups, Mega Zoo does well versus decks that are very weak to security checks or they can't handle excess memory very well. Decks such as Rookie Rush, when given more than 7-8 memory, they really can't do a lot with it because all their cards are so cheap. So it feels really awkward for them. And if they use up all their memory, then potentially they play into cards such as Chaosmon, or maybe they're having a really tough time with Lotusmon. So do keep that in mind. Mega Zoo Also does well into OTK green because they hit cards like Okai's Breath, or Ice Wolf Claw rather, or they hit healing cards. That's another really big thing because then you can just remove their entire strategy entirely. Decks that can clear your board every single turn or ignore your security can be fairly difficult. That includes cards such as Imperial Digimon, who have jamming and they can just ignore your big security checks, or decks like Red, who have access to both precise tactics and a lot of board removal, hard board removal specifically, so that they can just get rid of your bodies and then you cannot Chaosmon off of them. Now for closing thoughts. In my opinion, blue-green-yellow is the strongest variant of Megazoo in BT4, as it has both grind elements as well as combo potential elements. The ceiling is very high. This is a tier 1 deck that will punish your opponent if they are not knowledgeable, because if they misplay, you are very easily able to capitalize on that through the power of stuns, removals, or your Kaiser Nail combos. You will struggle, like I said, versus cards like Precise Tactics or Imperial Digimon. So please do be aware of that when you play this. And this deck, just as much as your opponent needs to know how to play versus it, you need to know how to play as this deck needs to change and adapt versus very specific matchups. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you found this educational and entertaining. Please let me know what you think or what decks you want to see in the future. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much.